Story 1. Zuzu Verk, the jogger who vanished into thin air, December 9, 2015. Fort Worth, Texas. Zuzu Verk was a 22-year-old college student, studying geology, passionate about the outdoors, known for her laughter and kindness. She had plans, a future, a family who adored her. That evening, she was with her boyfriend, Robert Fabian. The two had been dating for a while. They spent the night watching Christmas Vacation together. It seemed like a cozy, normal winter evening. Around 10 p.m., Zuzu laced up her sneakers and headed out for a jog. Nothing unusual, just a short run before bed. She never made it back. The last known moment, by midnight, her family grew concerned. Zuzu wasn't answering texts or calls. It didn't feel right. Within 24 hours, the worry turned into panic. Something was very, very wrong. The boyfriend's story cracks. Robert Fabian initially told police that Zuzu came back from her jog, but his story didn't hold. It kept changing. He later admitted he was jealous. He thought she'd been flirting with other men. Their quiet night may not have been so peaceful after all. Then came the surveillance footage. Zuzu never returned. There was no video, no door opening, no sign she came back that night. She was gone. The red flags. Robert's behavior became more suspicious by the hour. The next morning, his car was spotless, freshly cleaned inside and out. A witness told police they saw him loading something heavy into the vehicle that night. He failed multiple polygraph tests, and the biggest red flag, his phone pinged near a remote lake far from town, around the same time Zuzu went missing. But despite all that, there was no body, no weapon, no confession. A murder without a body. For years, Zuzu's case remained unsolved. Her family searched tirelessly. Her friends held vigils. Rumors spread. Some believed she was buried in the desert. Others thought her body was hidden in the lake where Robert's phone had pinged. But Robert? He refused to help with the search. He gave no answers, no remorse. Still, detectives built a case piece by piece. Witness statements, timeline inconsistencies, digital evidence. And in 2022, despite the lack of a body, Robert Fabian was convicted of murder. It became one of the most chilling no-body murder convictions in U.S. history. Unanswered questions. Did Robert kill Zuzu in a jealous rage? And where is her body? And why did he refuse to help find her? And if he didn't do it, who did? To this day, Zuzu Verk's remains have never been found. Her legacy, Zuzu's family continues to search for answers, for peace, for closure. Her story serves as a haunting reminder. Sometimes the scariest monsters aren't strangers hiding in the shadows. They're the ones you trusted most. Story 2. Molly Tibbetts, the small-town jogger who never came home. July 18th, 2018. Brooklyn, Iowa. Population 1,500. Molly Tibbetts was 20 years old. A college student passionate about psychology with a future ahead of her and a smile that lit up every room. That evening, she laced up her sneakers for an evening run. She wore black running shorts, a pink sports bra, and her Fitbit, standard routine, same neighborhood. Around 10 p.m., she sent a Snapchat to her boyfriend. That was the last anyone heard from her. By the next morning, when she didn't show up for work, her family knew something was wrong. The massive search begins. Within days, Molly's disappearance exploded into national news. Over 1,000 volunteers combed fields, ditches, and wooded areas. Police, FBI, and local authorities joined forces. Her digital footprint, Snapchat, Fitbit, cell tower pings, was analyzed endlessly. Then, after 33 long days, came the break. A local farmer's home security camera captured surveillance footage of Molly jogging and something else. A black Chevy Malibu. It passed her more than once. The killer confesses. That car led investigators to Christian Bahena Rivera, a 24-year-old undocumented dairy farm worker living quietly in the area. When questioned, Rivera claimed he had blacked out, said he woke up with Molly's body in the trunk of his car. But under pressure, he changed his story. He admitted to following her in the car, to confronting her, and when she told him she would call the police, he snapped. He stabbed her, repeatedly, then drove her body out to a remote cornfield, covered her with stalks and leaves, and left her there to rot. Aftermath and outrage, Rivera was arrested, charged, and later convicted of first-degree murder. In 2021, he was sentenced to life in prison without parole. But the case sparked a nationwide debate, not just over justice, but immigration. Rivera's undocumented status became the center of political arguments and media headlines. Molly's family, though grieving, chose not to engage in the firestorm. Instead, they created scholarships in her name, and began advocating for runner safety in her memory. Unanswered questions. Even with Rivera behind bars, not everything made sense. Did he act alone? Why Molly? What was his real motive? And what about her Fitbit? Found later, wiped clean, factory reset? These details linger. Puzzle pieces that never quite fit. Molly's legacy. Molly Tibbetts didn't die because she went somewhere dangerous. She wasn't out partying. She wasn't reckless. She went jogging in her hometown on a quiet night, and it cost her everything. Her story reminds us that even the safest places can hide the darkest threats, and that tragedy doesn't need a big city to strike. It just needs one person with evil in their heart. Story 3. Sydney Sutherland, the nurse who vanished on a familiar path. August 19, 2020. Jackson County, Arkansas. Sydney Sutherland was 25, a dedicated nurse, beloved daughter, and cherished friend. Known for her compassionate heart and radiant smile, she had a routine, an afternoon jog along the familiar stretches near her home. That day, she donned her running attire, laced up her shoes, and informed her family of her plans. The sun was high, the roads familiar. But as hours passed with no sign of Sydney, concern began to mount. By evening, when she hadn't returned, her family knew something was terribly wrong. The search intensifies. The tight-knit community sprang into action. Hundreds of volunteers alongside law enforcement scoured the area. Drones hovered over fields, search dogs traced scents, and every lead was pursued. The hope was unwavering, but as days passed, anxiety deepened. A sinister revelation. 2 days later, the search came to a devastating halt. Sydney's body was discovered in a shallow grave, concealed beneath the very earth she had tread upon. The community's worst fears were realized, unmasking the perpetrator. Attention turned to Quake Llewellyn, a 28-year-old local farmer. A familiar face in the community, he had even joined the search efforts, expressing concern for Sydney's whereabouts. But beneath this facade lay a chilling truth. He admitted to spotting Sydney during her jog, abducting her, and committing unspeakable acts before ending her life. The betrayal was profound. A neighbor turned predator. Justice served. Facing overwhelming evidence and a grieving community, Llewellyn pleaded guilty to capital murder and rape. In October 2021, he was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The courtroom echoed with a mix of relief and sorrow. A community's heartache vigils were held, tears shed, and memories shared. The nurse who had dedicated her life to healing others was taken in an act of incomprehensible violence. Reflections and reminders. Sydney's story serves as a haunting reminder of life's fragility and the unforeseen dangers that can lurk even in familiar surroundings. It's a call to communities everywhere to cherish their loved ones, remain vigilant, and support one another in times of unimaginable loss. Story 4. Eliza Fletcher, the teacher who vanished during her morning run. September 2, 2022. Memphis, Tennessee. Eliza Fletcher, affectionately known as Liza to her loved ones, was a 34-year-old kindergarten teacher at St. Mary's Episcopal School. A mother of 2 and an avid runner, Eliza was known for her vibrant spirit and dedication to her family and students. That morning, around 4:20 a.m., Eliza embarked on her regular run near the University of Memphis. The city was still asleep, and the streets were empty, a time she often found peace before the day's hustle. But as the sun rose and hours passed without her return, concern began to mount. When she didn't show up for work and failed to answer calls, her family knew something was terribly wrong. The search begins. Authorities were alerted, and an intensive search ensued. Surveillance footage revealed a chilling sight. Eliza was forcibly approached and abducted near the university campus. The grainy video showed a dark SUV pulling up beside her, a struggle, and then both the vehicle and Eliza disappearing into the early morning darkness. The community rallied together, holding vigils, sharing information, and hoping for her safe return. But as days passed, hope began to wane. A grim discovery on September 5th, just days after her disappearance, the search came to a heartbreaking conclusion. Eliza's body was discovered behind a vacant duplex in South Memphis. The vibrant teacher, mother, and wife had been taken from her loved ones in a senseless act of violence. The arrest and charges. Investigators swiftly identified and arrested Cleotha Abston, a 38-year-old man with a prior criminal record, including a previous kidnapping conviction. DNA evidence linked Abston to sandals found at the abduction site, and his vehicle matched the one seen in the surveillance footage. Abston was charged with first-degree murder, kidnapping, and other related offenses. Prosecutors announced their intent to seek the death penalty, emphasizing the brutality of the crime and Abston's violent history. Community outcry and reflection. Eliza's tragic death sent shockwaves through Memphis and the broader running community. Female runners voiced their fears and frustrations, highlighting the vulnerabilities they face even in familiar environments. The incident reignited discussions about safety, the justice system, and the need for societal change to protect women. Eliza's legacy. Beyond the headlines, Eliza Fletcher was a beacon of light to those who knew her. Her dedication to her students, her unwavering love for her family, and her passion for running painted the picture of a life well lived but tragically cut short. Her family, while grappling with unimaginable grief, expressed gratitude for the outpouring of support and urged the community to remember Eliza for the joy and love she brought into the world. She set out for a morning run, embracing the quiet of the early hours. But darkness awaited where she least expected. Remember Eliza Fletcher. Honor her memory. Stay vigilant.